Hey, what you reading for?
Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk about books, literary horror classics, and contemporary. I am coming to you from the warm and sunny south of France, but I'm pretending like it's cold and wintry. I even have an empty bowl that I'm pretending is filled with hot cocoa. Recently, in response to one of my videos, a viewer left a comment, which is nice. The comment was something to the effect of, "Michael, you're amazing, love the channel." Right, the usual, which, by the way, never gets old. She then proceeded to ask me if I had any recommendations for a cold climate, wintry book. I thought about it for a minute, and then I gave a few recommendations. About an hour later, a thought came to me, oh, why didn't I recommend this other book? A few hours later, another thought, oh, I should have recommended this book. So I decided, instead of responding to the comment every few hours whenever a new idea popped into my head, instead, I would put some concentrated thought into it and make a video. So for these cold climate winter book recommendations, I have selected quite a variety: a short story, a literary work, a thriller, a mystery horror, and a fun, quirky book. Now, what these recommendations all have in common is that in each one, the cold climate, the snow, they all play a significant role in the story. Not only do they serve as a wintry background, but they also, the cold weather and the snow, also impact the actions and the decisions that the characters make. Furthermore, a cold, wintry context for a story could make for a chilling read when you can feel the cold through the pages, providing goosebumps and shivers to an already creepy tale. Or a cold, wintry context could make for a cozy read, huddled in warm blankets with a purring cat on your lap and hot cocoa within reach. So I have provided, I have selected, a combination of the two. If you're new to this channel, thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoy the content, and I do hope that you consider subscribing. I do need and do appreciate the support. Now I will hand things off to the great American composer John Adams for a short intro sequence, and I'll see you on the other side for my list of great cold climate wintry reads. The first thing that came to mind when I was asked for cold climate, wintry book recommendations was a short story by Guy de Maupassant, The Inn, or L'Auberge in the original French. This story is a classic. It is set in winter. It is set on a snow-covered mountain where two caretakers set out for this lodge or this inn to look after it during the cold winter season when no one else is using it. Soon thereafter, things take a dramatic and fatal turn. The Inn is a short story, about 10, 12 pages. And even if you have never read it before, I would guess that as you are reading it for the first time, it will seem familiar to you because it's such a popular story. It has been copied and and tweaked, and it has inspired so many similar stories after its publication that I think it will be familiar to most readers. And since it was first published in 1886, it is also a work in the public domain. So I have, or I will include in the description box a link to a PDF where you can read it for free. I will also include a link to the original French version as well. My next recommendation is a far more substantive 21st century novel, Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. By Nobel Prize winner Olga Tokarczuk. I talked about this book more in depth in my video book recommendations for Shirley Jackson fans, because this book did remind me of the work of Shirley Jackson. We have a central protagonist, female protagonist, who is fun and charming and interesting, but we also get the sense that there's something a bit off about her, something not quite right. There is a tinge of darkness to the story, and also a celebration of magic or magical thinking. The protagonist likes to make horoscopes for people to give to them unsolicited. The book is set in winter. It is set in the snowy mountains of Poland, right on the border of Poland and Czechia. The protagonist, in addition to being a horoscope enthusiast, she also works as a caretaker for the holiday retreats or holiday homes of wealthy people from Warsaw, and during the winter season. And one day, one of her neighbors dies or is killed. So in addition to being a horoscope enthusiast, and in addition to looking after holiday retreats of wealthy Varsovians, she decides that she's going to do some sleuthing. I have seen in some places that this book has been marketed as a mystery. I don't think that is the strength of the book. I think that if you go into this read expecting a mystery, you are likely to be disappointed. I think the strength of this book is in the character study. This protagonist, she's an elderly woman, and she's fun, she's charming, she has an interesting perspective. I enjoyed spending time with her. And this book also has something to say about how elderly people, elderly women are perceived or often ignored in society. I think it's an excellent read. It was a big hit for a reason, and I give it a high recommendation. My next recommendation is a thriller, and it's a good one. No Exit by Taylor Adams. Set in the winter, set in the mountains, snow-covered mountains. A young woman, university student, she is driving through Colorado, returning home to see her sick mother. When the storm comes and she is obliged to pull over into a rest area and wait for the snowstorm to blow over. So at this rest area, she is essentially trapped with three strangers who may or may not know each other. Now, I went into this read blind, and I'm very glad I did so. So I'm not going to tell you any more about the plot. I will tell you what I loved about this book. It's relatively short, 280, 290 pages, and there is not a single page that does not have tension on it. And very effective tension as well. I was gripped throughout the read, and I was like talking out loud, like, no, don't do that. Why don't you consider this solution? Now, the protagonist did not always take my advice, but still everything she did was reasonable and logical. This book was able to continue ramping up the tension, and by using believable actions and believable, reasonable decision making from its characters. It's not a stupid thriller that relies on characters making stupid decisions to build the tension. So I was very impressed with it and very satisfied with the read. And for me, I don't read a lot of thrillers because I generally find them kind of formulaic and disappointing, but this one I gave 5 stars. My next recommendation is a murder mystery with werewolf overtones, and that is The House of the Wolf by Basil from 1983. Set in winter in a castle outside of Budapest, Hungary in the late 19th century, we begin with a carriage ride up winding roads where wolves can be heard howling in the distance. So already we are getting strong Dracula vibes, right? This book is not trying to forge any new paths in the mystery horror genre. We are trotting very familiar territory here. But when it's done well, when the execution is there, there's a certain charm to that. This is a super tropey book. We have the stranger in the strange land. We have the creepy yet elegant and generous count, the young seductive daughter of the count. We have the enormous castle with many neglected rooms and seldom used corridors. We have wild superstitions from the village folk, and we have a snowstorm that traps everyone inside. But the story is well done. I, who am not usually a fan of murder mysteries, I thought this one was well done, and I had quite a lot of fun with it. And I think with the right frame of mind and with the right expectations, I think you could too. And for my final recommendation for a cold climate wintry book, I am going to recommend a book that is certainly not for everyone. And that is because, sadly, inexplicably, even though it has been translated into dozens of languages, it has never been translated into English. And that book I am talking about is Hirte Tuyen Ketuyen Metsa, or La Forêt des renards pendus, as I originally knew it, or as I came to know it. And that is the Forest of Hanging Foxes, I suppose, by the great Finnish writer Arto Pasaalinna. So this criminal, he and his cohorts, they make out with hundreds and thousands of euros worth of gold bars. But the criminal, our protagonist, he double crosses his accomplices and makes off with all the loot. His accomplices are after him, so he has to hide out in the Finnish mountains, in a forest, in the snow, and he just needs to lay low for a while, right? Now, he did manage to exchange some of the gold for banknotes, so he's hired this cabin, the isolated cabin in the snowy Finnish mountains, and but unfortunately, some of the banknotes they got wet because of the snow. It's okay. He just hangs them to dry outside of this cabin. Now, this cabin is located in the forest, and this forest is populated by foxes. And one of the foxes, a particularly brazen and intrepid fox, comes up to the cabin and just snatches a 500 euro banknote. And the guy, our protagonist, he can't coax or scare the fox into letting go of the banknote. So eventually, he just develops a relationship with this fox because he's in isolation. He's kind of lonely, and now he has a companion. And in typical Arto Pasaalinna fashion, this is ultimately a story about someone, generally an older male, who is in the marge of society and isolated, more often than not self-imposed isolation. And through some interactions with nature and with other quirky Finnish people, he refines his lust for life and his desire to build relationships with his fellow humans. And of all the, Arto Pasaalinna is one of my favorite writers. Sadly, and I don't know why, his work has never been translated into English, aside from 2 novels that I talked about in my video, Get to Know Me tag. But this one has not been translated into English. It's been translated into dozens of European languages. So if you speak or if you read in any European languages other than English, you have a lot more books available to you. And I would highly encourage you to check out Arto Pasaalinna. And this one, Irte tujen, Ketujen Metsa, is probably one of my favorites of his. So there you have it, my recommendations for cold climate wintry reads. A short story, literary fiction, a thriller, a murder mystery horror, and a quirky literary work in translation. It is a short list, admittedly. What I would suggest that together we build a bigger and broader list. If you have an idea for a great cold climate wintry read, please let us know about it in the comment section. I will say I kind of like this organic way of making videos. You know, I post a video, a viewer leaves a comment and asks me for a recommendation, which spurs me to create another video, and so on and so forth. It's not the first time that has happened, but I kind of like it. Maybe there will be more opportunities like this in the future. If you made it this far and you are not a subscriber, what are you doing? You just click the button, right? Super easy, harmless, cost-free act of support and encouragement, which I do appreciate. And if you are one of those people who likes to support booktubers beyond subscribing, viewing, liking, and commenting, I do have a few books out. I have 4 books out. 1 is in French, 3 are in English. Buy yourself a copy, enjoy it, and leave a review. That's a great way to support this channel. You have options, is what I'm saying, I guess. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you at the next video.